Part 61. A Sledgehammer Breaks into Pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 601. Eternal Night Sea Avalon. In the main hall of the Government Affairs Center, Beckman was sitting at his desk, reviewing and approving some documents. Judging from the papers piled on his desk, there is no doubt that he is very busy at work. Damn it, that bastard Orgrim knows how to fight and kill. After the fight, I have to deal with the aftermath of everything, Beckman grumbled as he looked at the document, scribbling on it. Some time has passed since the end of the war. The cotters scattered in various sea areas are returning to Avalon one after another. Beckman is the core of the core. Orgrim is a very despicable guy who doesn't care about things. Therefore, he is the first big boss to return to Avalon from the Totland Sea to handle things. Everything from before the war to after the war needs to be dealt with urgently. He has hardly had a good rest since he came back and feels like he is working overtime every day. Just when Beckman complained about Orgrim, but had to work hard. A figure, holding a roll of nautical charts, walked in from the door. Gangplank, Avalon's intelligence chief. Beckman's brother in distress. Plank laughed as soon as he saw Beckman still working. Hearing the footsteps, Beckman looked up and then said unhappily, "Are you so happy to see me busy at work?" "Ha ha ha ha, happy, quite happy, it makes me feel that I am not the only one suffering, we are all compatriots, hear ye?" Plank said with a smile. "Well," Beckman shook his head and sighed with emotion. Then, he picked up the coffee cup on the table, took a sip and asked, "How's it going?" "It's done. Come and take a look at this new chart," Plank said as he walked to Beckman's side. Then, he handed the roll of nautical charts in his hand to Beckman. Beckman also stopped what he was doing, and then put the chart on the it is spread out on the table. It is indeed brand new, but the position of the island above has not changed much. Generally speaking, the frequency of island changes on the chart is also very small. After all, the masters destroy the island not every once in a while. It can happen. It is not a common thing for new islands to be discovered. On this chart, the main change is the change of the territory of the New World Sea. First of all, you can see that the territory of the New World Portal Sea, most of them are marked with the Navy's logo. This symbolizes that the New World Gateway area is already under the control of the Navy. "So cunning, Navy," Beckman smiled and said. "Yes, very cunning. What is this called?" "Surrounded by 3 and missing 1, Plank nodded. In a similar sense, most of the islands in the Gateway waters, especially the main shipping routes, have been occupied by the Navy, but they did not dare to completely seal off this area. They left some places that could be used. OMS gave us pirates a route," Beckman nodded and said. "It is indeed very cunning. If the Navy dares to block the New World, it doesn't matter whether it's the pirates outside the New World or the existing pirates in the New World. I guess they have to fight the Navy to the death. There is no other way. If you don't work hard, you will be trapped and raised. Pirates will not take the initiative to find trouble with the Navy. But if the Navy goes too far, it will definitely trigger a large-scale counterattack. If such a thing really happened, Orgrim and the Warhammer pirates would probably be the first to laugh out loud. Leaving aside the top pirates, the pirate forces want to have a serious confrontation with the Navy headquarters. It must be twisted into a rope. Straight soldiers will never be the opponent of the Navy. And now, who in the New World has the prestige to unify the pirate forces? There is no doubt that it is the Warhammer pirates. If the Navy does this, Orgrim doesn't have to do anything, just wait until the pirates in the New World can't stand it anymore. He climbed up to a high place and raised his arms. You can form a super large pirate alliance immediately. If he leads the pirate alliance and legitimately defeats the Navy headquarters, wouldn't he become the pirate king? Unfortunately, the Navy did not do this. The Warhammer pirates were not given such a chance. It is difficult for pirates to unite together when there is a way out. But at this stage, it is not the time to take care of the navy. Although everyone has noticed the arrival of a new era, and most people understand that this new era must be an era of fierce competition between the pirate camp and the navy camp. But whether it is a war or an era, it all needs to be brewed. In front of me, the entire New World has just finished a vigorous struggle for kingship. No matter who it is, as long as they participate in this war, they will suffer losses to some extent. Of course, the losers are the worst, but the winners are better off. But the problem is that the winner also needs time to digest all the benefits and dividends brought by this war. Otherwise, wouldn't this war be in vain? So no one can doubt that peace is coming. Today, it is the long-lost peaceful era. As for how long this peace will last, 3 to 5 years, or even longer, or shorter, this depends on the will of the top bosses who can influence the world's situation. Such as Orgrim, such as Marine Marshal Sengoku. Just when they think they are ready, war may break out at any time. In short, now, even if Orgrim has become the pirate overlord of the New World, this era, even if it is an era of competition between the navy and pirates. But no war will start in the short term. Friction and conflict with the navy must also be kept within controllable limits. They can't control the New World portal sea for the time being. Moreover, it seems that he has no intention of taking care of it. Because this must be the core interest of the navy in the next stage of development. Whoever makes a move, the navy will fall out with. Let the navy be arrogant first, and let the pirates in the New World suffer. When the time comes, they will feel uncomfortable and will naturally think of our good deeds. Beckman smiled. Planck also laughed and said, that's right, we are not in a hurry anyway. After all, we have people above us. How dare the navy control our entry and exit into the New World? Ha 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 ha. That's right, Beckman said with a smile, and then his eyes moved on the sea map again. He moved to the interior of the sea area of the New World. The changes here have been great. First of all, in the New World, it originally had one of the largest territories and had powerful forces. The pirate country of Totland and all nations was destroyed. Naturally, the relevant labels such as the Big Mom pirates and so on were wiped off the sea map. This area has been marked with Don Quixote family, Beasts pirates, and Warhammer pirates annotations. There is no doubt that the power cake of Totland all nations has been divided equally among the three families. The remaining bits and pieces have been divided by the new ones. The rest of the pirates in the world, big and small, were eaten. This is considered intentional by the Warhammer pirates. In fact, if they take over all, it is not impossible. But in the next era, Orgrim needs cannon fodder. He also needs to find a way to coordinate the entire pirate camp. Otherwise, how can a pirate who no one recognizes become the king? Therefore, the benefits that should be given must still be given. Eat as much meat as you want. It's better to save some soup for others. Fattening some pirates in the New World can just add more trouble to the navy. Why not? To be honest, the Warhammer pirates are not bad at these 3 melons and 2 dates. Rich and arrogant. It has been said before that the Evernight Sea is located in the central area of the New World. In the past, Shiji traveled across the sea. The Eternal Night Sea is the buffer area between top pirate forces such as the Big Mom pirates, the Beast pirates, the Whitebeard pirates, and the Sky pirates. It belongs to the sea area surrounded by all sides. Later, Boss Shiji became cold, and the Big Mom pirates began to annex Shiji's territory. In fact, the feud between Charlotte Lingling and Orgrim seemed to have begun at that time. That damn old woman was always worried that when Orgrim became bigger and stronger, he would retaliate against her for seizing the Shiji territory. Therefore, Orgrim was targeted everywhere, and as a result, he was now sent to Impelton to be imprisoned and undergo rehabilitation training. In short, Boss Shiji was in trouble. The territory of the Sky Pirates was completely eaten up by Charlotte Lingling. She also became the most powerful pirate with the widest territory at that time, even more powerful than the Whitebeard pirates. The thieves are even more arrogant. Then, the Warhammer pirates entered the Evernight Sea, facing enemies on all sides. Surrounded by the Big Mom pirates, Beasts pirates, and Whitebeard pirates. Therefore, there is no real buffer zone between the several large pirate groups. The contradictions and conflicts continued to escalate, and the brewing of the battle for royal power began at that point in time. In order to solve Avalon's predicament at that time, the Warhammer pirates formed a strong alliance with the Beast pirates led by Kaido, breaking the situation where they were enemies on all sides. At the same time, because Orgrim's personal strength is one of the strongest in the night, no one dares to provoke him in the Evernight Sea. Had a relatively peaceful time. Then, the war to establish the Four Emperors pattern broke out. In the Battle of Butter Island, the Warhammer pirates powerfully defeated the Big Mom pirates. Another draw with the Whitebeard pirates. Completely established a foothold in the New World and became the Yonko pirates. After this war, the Big Mom pirates, which was originally the most powerful group, had a lot of territory devoured. Almost all of Shiki's territory that she once occupied was occupied by Orgrim, Kaido, Doflamingo, etc. The people divided it up completely. Avalon and the Warhammer pirates have more room to survive. With a firm foothold, development naturally picked up. In just a dozen years, the Warhammer pirates and the Avalon faction became the overlords of the Dark World and one of the top behemoths in the New World. And similarly, when a new overlord emerges, it is natural to obtain more benefits that are consistent with the overlord's identity. The war for royal supremacy has begun since then. Now, the curtain has come to an end. The Big Mom pirates are gone. Looking at the division of forces in the New World at this time, the Evernight Sea is still the core of the New World and the core of the Warhammer pirates. Before the Warhammer pirates' sphere of influence, most of the area near the New World portal was the territory of the Whitebeard pirates. Deep into the New World and close to the Evernight Sea, the original territory of the Whitebeard pirates has been rewritten and marked as the territory of the Warhammer pirates. The Whitebeard pirates were pushed to the forefront of the confrontation with the Navy. After this, there is the core, the Eternal Night Sea. From the map, above the Eternal Night Sea is the power of the Beast pirates. In the rear is the sphere of influence of the Don Quixote family. Below, there is no extra power, just corners and corners, extending all the way to the Windless Zone, and there are no eye-catching bosses. Among the major forces, it is obvious that the Warhammer pirates are the most powerful. The various sea areas extending around the Evernight Sea are all radiated by Avalon and the power of the Warhammer pirates. It is a situation of all the stars over the moon. In other words, if you want to enter the deepest part of the New World, you have to ask Orgrim if he agrees. This is the same whether it is for the Navy or the silver medal players. As long as Orgrim and the Warhammer pirates have a problem with you, you will be unable to move forward in the New World. Not bad, this pattern is very beneficial to us, Beckman said with a smile. At least judging from the sea map, the New World can only implement the will of our Warhammer pirates, and the rest are not qualified, Plank also said with a smile. A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 602. After reading the chart, Beckman spoke again. After this, there will inevitably be a period of peace. During this period, our main goal is to stabilize the interior and digest the dividends of this war. Fall, and at the same time, increase our strength again. Of course, isn't this the tone of our Warhammer pirates' future development, Plank said with a smile. Therefore, the nationalization of Avalon and the Evernight Sea needs to be further implemented. Although Charlotte Lingling fell and went to prison in Imperial, she has to admit that her Totland, Wanguo, is doing it in a lively and dramatic way. There are many things we can learn from. In this way, according to the previous discussions before the war, we can select grassroots officers with outstanding merits to become the cornerstone of our ruling class, and then use them as expansion, Beckman and Planck said. After a long time, Beckman added population is also the top priority of development. As our territory expands, the population must keep up. Well, it's easier to say now. After the war, a large number of people were displaced. Now, in the New World, our flag is the best to use, and it is very effective in attracting people, Planck said. If that's not enough, let's show off our pirate courage and tell the newly joined kingdoms that we, the Warhammer Pirates, will not be short of their donation funds. From now on, within 3 years, each country will be proportioned to its national population every year. To pay tribute to the population in the Evernight Sea, as long as boys and girls under the age of 16 are allowed, and families are allowed to follow and migrate, no country can disobey, Beckman said very domineeringly. I have to say that this condition is indeed harsh, and it seems very overbearing and somewhat inhumane. But who calls the Warhammer Pirates pirates? You are not a civilized person. I don't need to deal with these messy things with you. You just have to do whatever I, the Warhammer Pirates, say. If you are not convinced, hold it in. Newcomers must have the consciousness of being a new member. Be a second-class citizen for a period of time and see how they perform. Planck didn't think there was anything wrong at all, but he still asked what if a country refuses to implement it. Ha 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 ha, remove their flag, destroy their country, and enslave their population. It just so happens that now we in Avalon also lack labor force for manual labor, so they are all here to build roads and mine, Beckman laughed. Avalon has developed for so many years, and its economic strength is extremely strong. It is not just the Warhammer Pirates and the Avalon faction that have become rich. The tens of millions of people under the radiation are no more than they were back then. Back then, we were plundered. Now, 1 or 2 of them are extremely arrogant and extremely rich. The general environment is so unreasonable, and there is no doubt that the dividends of this war, the people of Wallonia and the 4 surrounding islands, including Amazon Lily, will definitely have their mouths full of oil again. To use the simplest analogy, the Avalon-type Chable will definitely expand the scale of business in various industries again. Expansion requires employing people and providing more jobs. Avalon's population is only so large, and people must be recruited. Businesses must compete for people, and the first method must be to increase wages and benefits. After the war dividends come down, everyone has plenty of money. When it comes to remuneration, it will definitely go up suddenly. The people who benefit here are the ordinary people of Avalon. When the salary and remuneration are high, the consumption power will be high, and the consumption power will be high. Will once again promote the economic prosperity of Avalon. In this case, who is willing to work hard to move bricks? We don't need this little money. Therefore, Avalon is now in short supply. Roads, building new cities, digging sewers, these jobs are not very decent labor. For this reason, Beckman has also issued many incentive policies before. For example, those who join the construction engineering team are given priority in recruitment. Yes. That's right, being a pirate is one of the best options in Avalon. It has always been that way. No matter which legion you join, as long as you participate in the war, you will receive a huge pension if you die. Very good. You can enjoy many privileges in the Eternal Night Sea and even the entire Avalon power radiation area. More importantly, the Warhammer Pirates now replenish their crew members. Even the deck washers will only be recruited from the army. This means that only those who join the army of Avalon will be eligible and have the opportunity to join the Warhammer Pirates. But even so, as the economic level of the general public gets better and better, there is a gap in the labor force. It is still difficult to be satisfied. That's why Beckman is so eager to recruit people. Bailey and wealth swept back from the war must be spent. How to spend it most appropriately? One is to improve armaments, and one is to continue to invest in scientific research like bastards like Caesar, and the third is to expand infrastructure. If you want infrastructure, you need people. After finishing this question, Planck said, by the way, as we seize the huge interests of Totland, many related issues have also been highlighted, such as racial issues. Race issues, Beckman murmured. Don't get me wrong, it's not about skin color here. Who cares about your skin color in this world? Humans are not the only intelligent race. Totland, all nations, due to Charlotte Lingling's bad taste, has a large population of various races. Previously, the Big Mom pirates adopted a high-pressure policy regarding this racial issue and had nothing to say. But the Warhammer pirates are not suitable for such nonsense. Because it is inconsistent with the tone, Avalon has always emphasized racial equality and anti-discrimination in order to gain the power of Fishman Island. If you change the atmosphere now, wouldn't it be a slap in your face? It is also not conducive to development. After thinking for a while, Beckman said, encourage intermarriage and subsidize mixed race. In this way, I will ask the policy department below to study a feasible plan for me. The tone of the racial issue remains unchanged. We still emphasize racial equality and oppose discriminate and crack down hard. Anyone who dares to do small things that are not conducive to our internal problems will be punished if caught. Encouraging intermarriage and subsidizing mixed race will definitely be beneficial in the short term. However, in the long run, it may affect many factors in all aspects, and it is difficult to say whether it is suitable or not. But this kind of thing is not something Beckman has to worry about alone. Even though Beckman seemed to grasp everything inside Avalon, big and small. But in fact, not all policies and arrangements are handled by Beckman. He has a large number of people under him who specialize in helping him with advice, and they are also divided into many departments, such as the policy department that specializes in policy planning, the Economic and Management Department for Economic Development, and the People's Livelihood Management Office that deals with people's livelihood. There are a lot of them. It is these usually inconspicuous departments that form precise parts that support the growth of Avalon. After chatting for a few more words, Beckman picked up the coffee cup, took a sip and said, "This is really a rush. It makes me more tired than fighting." "Who says it isn't?" Glank also complained. The two took a short rest and prepared to continue working. But at this time, a Thay girl came in from the door. Vinsmoke Raju, a frequent visitor to Beckman's office. After she came in, she saw Beckman and Planck. A smile hung from the corner of her eyes and she said, "Mr. Beckman, Uncle Planck, don't be busy." Beckman looked at Raju with a smile on his face and said, "Raju, what's wrong?" "Master Chui asked me to come and ask you to have dinner. Brother Enelu and the others have just returned, and now all the core cotters have returned to Avalon," Raju said with a smile. Beckman was stunned for a moment, then glanced at the calendar on the table, shook his head with a smile and said in a blink of an eye, "It's the end of the year, it's time to get together, and it's just in time for the war to end. That guy from Orgrim keeps saying that he wants to wait for everyone to come and celebrate together. Ha 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 ha, I think Master Chui wants to show off that he has become the strongest man in the world, one and only one, who has reached the extreme and the limit, standing on the other side and the end of strength." Gangplank laughed and spoke. Beckman also laughed and nodded. "That's right, that guy has always been like this. When he makes some achievements, he has to brag to us." Putting down the coffee cup in his hand, Beckman looked at the documents piled up on the table, and finally said with a smile, "Forget it, forget about these bad things, let's go, Planck, go have a drink." "Good. Go drink," Planck also said with a smile. Then, taking Raju, Planck and Beckman left the house together. At the same time, at the port, Bumit, this guy, stood up with his penis bearded. He walked off a giant ship happily. Beside him, followed by Big News Morgans, the president of News of the World. Wheelmit was in a very happy mood now. Witty, he is so special, what a wit. Although when he first joined Mr. Chui had already made a fortune and became a big boss in the new world. But now, it is not too late. After all, now, Mr. Chui has become he is the only overlord of the new world. Although his current status is just a small role in the Avalon system, which is not too inconspicuous. But it also needs comparison. Compared with Beckman and other big guys, he is a small role. But compared to the old friends of the same level in the past, I am a real big shot. That status is far from the messy title of King of Shipping back then. Look at it. Morgans, the CEO of News of the World, is now more than a head lower than himself. He has made a lot of money. Sure enough, it was the best choice to bet on Mr. Hammer when he lost all his money. Where can I find such high-quality stocks? Avalon, Morgans murmured with some emotion as he looked at the bustling Avalon Island, which was still prosperous in the dark night with the scorching sun. He hasn't been here for a long time. This time, I wanted to pay a visit to Orgrim. However, although the outside world thought that he had some unclear relationship with Orgrim, in fact, Orgrim did not have much involvement with him. Morgans is naturally aware of this kind of thing. Therefore, he asked his old friend Umit to be the intermediary and wanted to introduce him. After hearing the news, Orgrim happily agreed to meet. So he followed Umit. As for what you came to Avalon for? The hegemony of the New World was seized by Orgrim. Nowadays, who doesn't know that the New World is ruled by the Warhammer pirates? News of the World, why not come and say bye to the pier? In fact, it's not just Morgans, many big guys want to come to visit the dock, but not everyone has the same connections as Morgans. In the past, there were 4 factions in the New World. If they offended Orgrim, they could still hang out with other big bosses. Now, if you have offended Orgrim, you can either go to the Navy or pack up and get out of the New World. Otherwise, it will definitely not be as easy for you. So, who doesn't want to come and visit the pier? For the news of the world, what is fundamental to survival? Is it territory? No, it's important news, breaking news. From the perspective of the entire world, although the world is large, the New World only accounts for a very small part, but there is no doubt that the New World is the basis for the survival of world news. Because 9 out of 10 big news that can really shock the world will happen in the New World. To the rest of the sea. For example, who the hell cares about what a pirate with a bounty of tens of millions actually did? Who the hell cares about the troubles caused in those sea areas that don't have much influence? Although the East China Sea is big, even if the kings of 10 participating countries are changed in one go, it can only be regarded as small news. Therefore, if Morgans wanted to run the newspaper well, he had to have a good relationship with Orgrim. Otherwise, if he is kicked out of the New World, it will be the end of him. You're lucky. I heard that Lord Hammer is holding a banquet here today. All the big shots from the Warhammer pirates are here, Umit said with a smile. Naturally, he is also within the invitation range. After all, he is considered a person. Morgans also said happily, then Mr. Hammer must be in a good mood today, which is a good sign. While talking and laughing, the two walked into the bustling Avalon. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 603. Along the way, Morgans was constantly observing the current situation of Avalon. Economic prosperity is one of them. A long time ago, Morgans came to Avalon frequently because it was known as the most chaotic island in the world. When I came here, the streets were full of murderers, and you could see corpses along the way. Now, the streets of Avalon are clean and tidy, and everyone looks polite and decent. There is no longer any sense of chaos like before. However, Morgans knew very well that the Warhammer Pirates rule here did not clearly stipulate that they could not kill people indiscriminately like before. This place is, in fact, still a paradise for pirates. This thriving atmosphere arises naturally. As the saying goes, if you have enough food and clothing, you will know the etiquette. If you have enough food and clothing, you will know the honor and disgrace. This sentence is not unreasonable. Although Avalon was prosperous in the beginning, it was a chaotic and false prosperity. It is the prosperity supported by countless pirates spending their money here. The vast majority of people are still miserable. In this bustling world, if they want to make a lot of money and survive, they have to work hard and work hard. If you don't eat others, others can eat you. It is different now. It is prosperity in substance, prosperity brought by trade and construction. You don't have to fight, you can still eat and drink and make a lot of money. Then whoever has nothing to do will kill people randomly. More importantly, the chaotic order here is not suitable for the main status of Avalon, so it gradually died out. In the past, Avalon was dominated by the pirate economy, but now it is dominated by business in the dark world. Of course pirates can kill people at will, but although the dark world is evil, they are still doing business. How can they do business when all the people are dead? Therefore, during the economic transformation that year, although the Warhammer pirates did not issue clear regulations, but the merchants on Avalon Island formed a coalition. Specifically for those bastards who break the law in Avalon. Anyway, killing is not illegal, so as long as you dare to kill people indiscriminately, our Chamber of Commerce will dare to pull you out and whip your corpse. Over time, the atmosphere here naturally became harmonious. Now, everyone on the street looks kind-hearted. Where is it still as cruel as before? At the same time, Morgans also discovered that the Avalonians had an aura of confidence. This is rare in the New World. The New World will always be a chaotic sea, and this is the most dangerous place in the world. The vast majority of the people are living in dire straits and are precarious. As a result, they naturally have little confidence. But in Avalon, you can feel the self-confidence that comes from the people. Even this self-confidence has become a bit arrogant. When he was in the port, Morgans discovered that the Avalonians treated ships flying foreign flags and ships flying local flags very differently. Even Kahaha, who is carrying bags on the dock, behaves like I am the boss when dealing with foreign ships. Not to mention the rest of them, they were completely condescending. Only when we treat local ships can we feel equal. What does this represent? Morgans, who has an outstanding vision, can understand. It is centripetal force and cohesion. Avalonians are very recognized and satisfied with their identity. They are proud of their Avalonian identity. This also means that they are very satisfied and recognized with the rule of the Warhammer pirates. Proud of the Warhammer pirates. In just a few short years, the Warhammer pirates have achieved this level here, which is simply beyond imagination. If the entire Avalon together with the 5 surrounding islands looked like this, all the more than 20 million people are in this state. That would be really terrifying. After all, this is different from the other pirate groups dividing their territories. Fundamentally different. With such a foundation as support, Morgans could not even imagine what factors could completely wipe out the Warhammer pirates. It can't be possible, right? The legacy of pirates, Morgan suddenly thought of something. Perhaps this is what makes the Warhammer pirates different from most pirate groups. Maybe they can really pass on for a long time. Just thinking about these messy things in Morgans's mind at that time, the surrounding environment gradually became quiet. There were more guards and patrols on the street, almost 5 steps to one post and 10 steps to one sentry. Morgan soon understood that they had arrived at Warhammer, the core area of the pirate group. I looked up a few times and saw that there was a surveillance phone bug operating on almost every street light. The entire area was completely covered by surveillance. The signal wave of phone bugs here will be intercepted. It will be put in after checking with the intelligence department first to determine the risk. So if you really need to answer any phone bugs later, don't talk nonsense, Umit reminded kindly. Morgan smiled, nodded, and said, "Don't worry, my admiration for Mr. Chui is like a surging river, and like the overflowing sea. Once it gets out of control, I will definitely not make Mr. Chui angry." While joking, the two turned the corner. Then, a slightly delighted voice came. "Hey, Umit, you're here too," a man called with a smile in his voice. This man was wearing a pink and sexy suit, his gray-green hair was combed back into a slicked back hair, and it was shiny. He had a bunch of gold chains hanging around his neck, and all his fingers were covered with gold rings. At a glance, he had an air of something. The momentum of money and tyranny came to my face. Beside him, there was a beauty with long blonde hair, holding his arm with a smile, and the two of them looked extremely in love. That's right, this man is the famous Golden Emperor Gilder Tetsalo in the New World. His status in the Warhammer Pirates is not particularly prominent, but he is steadily rising. But from the outside world, he is definitely a big boss. The person in charge of the Avalon Dark Bank, and the general person in charge of the world's largest neutral zone, Entertainment City and Gold City that is about to open. In other words, he is the god of wealth in the New World. Not cowhide enough? Oh, Tetsalo, long time no see, Mrs. Stella is still so beautiful, I really envy you, ha 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 ha. Umit laughed and said. Umit and Tezalo have a very good relationship. When the Golden City opened, Umit also helped a lot, with a lot of construction funds and so on. How could it be done so quickly? In place, it was Umit who was helping. Even the foundation of the Golden City, the moving island turtle, was personally sponsored by Umit. He often dealt with Tezalo. Morgans also stepped forward and talked with Tezalo. Say hello. As a businessman, Tetsalo is also a man who welcomes everyone with a smile. He does not feel arrogant. He shook hands with Morgans with a smile and said, "Mr. President, wait for us in the Golden City we have opened, but we need help from your newspaper." Morgans is also a smart man, and he also said very sincerely, "There is no problem at all. Once the Golden City opens, I guarantee that the newspaper will issue an urgent special issue and fully publicize it." Ha 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 ha, that's true, thanks, let's go. We're all late. Dover and the others must have arrived. Let's go in and chat, Tezalo said with a smile. Walking further inside, you will arrive at the clusters of buildings. The majestic palaces, pavilions, at a glance, are very elegant. Morgan's is the first. When I came here for the first time, I was a little surprised. This didn't look like the core territory of pirates at all. It was more like a palace complex where the royal family of a country with a long history lived. Looking more closely, Morgan's was a little stunned. At first glance, although this palace is full of momentum, it is very low-key. But if you look closely, you will find that it is the ultimate luxury. Morgan's couldn't help but reach out and touch the paint on the wall of the palace, and whispered, "This is gemstone paint. Ha ha ha, it is insightful, but it is not as exaggerated as a gem. It is a deep-sea mineral," Tezalo introduced with a smile. When he first came here, he also looked stunned. Pigment minerals are not a very legendary thing. In this day and age, pigments are no longer particularly rare. However, in the ancient times, a long time ago, pigments were very scarce. The pigments used by real dignitaries were all mineral pigments. Even more awesome, they directly ground rubies and sapphires into powder and used them as mineral pigments are used. You can see how luxurious it is. The Warhammer Pirates residence has also undergone several renovations. Especially after getting rich, the renovations are even more luxurious. There is luxury in the low-key, and the entire palace is painted, almost all of which are mineral pigments. Walking inside, We arrived at the residences of big figures such as Mr. Chui. They were using gemstone pigments in the true sense, but it wasn't to that extent here, Tizalo said again. Morgan suppressed the shock in his heart and thought that he was indeed the richest pirate group in the legend. They were awesome. Others used gems to make exquisite jewelry and wore them with care. On your body. You'd better just powder the gems and use them as paint. After taking 2 steps, Morgans noticed something was wrong again. The road under his feet was glowing. He couldn't help but stop, lowered his head to observe carefully, and exclaimed, "Pearls!" Looking again, damn, the raw materials used to pave the roads in the entire palace complex are all white pearls. Even on both sides of the road, every few steps, you can see huge night pearls. Yes, it's a pearl, but don't be too surprised. President Morgans, you should know that there is a big difference between the culture on the sea and under the sea. The precious pearls on the sea are indeed used under the sea. We are here to make building materials. It just so happens that we, Avalon, have a very good relationship with Dragon Palace City. There is also this night pearl and so on, Tizalo introduced with a smile again. Umit couldn't help but let out a pretentious air, and then said, "Yes, you know, our Avalon is located in the Sea of Eternal Night. You can't see the sun at all, even if there are fluorescent grass and other luminous plants, it can't compare to the sunshine after all. It's a little worse. If you don't pay attention when walking, it's normal to stumble. For this reason, Mr. Zui decided to use this kind of white pearl. Let's pave the way. Look, white pearls are still reflective to a certain extent. Isn't the road now much clearer? When you start walking, you don't have to worry about stumbling. I'm crazy." Morgans had 10,000 alpacas running wild in his mind. "Yes, I have probably heard that pearls can be used as building materials on Fishman Island. But they are decorative building materials, used as door curtains and the like. Why don't you just use it to pave the road? How much does this cost?" Morgan smiled reluctantly, then pointed to the transparent window and said, "Then this." "Well, that's right, clear flawless crystal." Tizalo nodded without hesitation. "Okay, pretend I didn't ask." Morgans immediately suppressed his words. He will no longer be surprised, even if your Warhammer pirates use gold to build toilets and silver. I won't show any surprise anymore when we build stairs. Morgans had previously thought that as the president of the world's largest newspaper, he was also a rich man. His quality of life should be very high, that's right. The food and drink expenses are all first class. But now, he deeply realizes, there is a huge gap between a little money and real money. You will never realize the happiness of rich people. Hung hung, so arrogant. Is this Avalon? I love it. No wonder so many people want to join the Warhammer Pirates even if they want to wash the deck. Now looking at the caliber of the Warhammer Pirates, I'm afraid the guy who washes the deck must be a billionaire, right? A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 604. The deeper into the palace complex, the more Morgans can feel the luxury and style here. As the president of News of the World, Morgans is still very knowledgeable in terms of knowledge. Therefore, he can often discover the connotation of the humble place. Passing by a garden of flowers and plants, he took a look at the rockery and saw that the rockery was polished from a single piece of stone. Not to mention the exquisiteness, you can even see the luxury revealed inadvertently in every corner. It's not stone, it's jade. Damn it, if you peel off this layer of stone skin, I'm afraid the entire rockery is made of jade, right? There are many schools of fish swimming inside the waterside pavilion, but at first glance they look like nothing. But if you take a closer look, you will see that these are all precious fish species that the princes and nobles treat as treasures, keep them at home and take good care of them. This is nothing. Occasionally, he can still see the servants responsible for taking care of these fish schools. All are beautiful mermaid girls. Luxurious, Too luxurious. Morgans now feels like a bumpkin from a remote village, so ignorant. Alas, compared with this palace group, our golden city seems very low-end. The main body is made of gold, which gives it a very low-end feel, Tetsalo said with some emotion. Morgans glanced at him, wondering if this guy was showing off or if he really thought so. If he had come to the palace complex in Avalon, he would definitely have felt that Tetsalo was showing off. Isn't gold high enough yet? If you don't have the grade, please give it to me. But now, compare this extremely luxurious palace, not to mention, it seems really classless. It's more than a low-end one. Ha 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 ha, okay, the Golden City is for outsiders after all, how can it be compared with this place? Umit said in an angry tone. Do you rich people all talk like this? I really want to interrupt, but I can't. Your topic is too high-end, and I feel it's not up to par. After walking around all the way and finally understanding the ultimate luxury of this palace complex, Morgans finally followed Tizalo and Umit to a huge courtyard. At this moment, he finally saw that the paint used in the courtyard and walls here were definitely genuine gem pigments, and they were high-quality gems. Because the wall glows faintly, playing the role of lighting in this dark night. Here we are, Mr. Chui will live here, Tetsalo said with a smile. Morgans nodded. You can already smell the aroma here. It seems like there is a barbecue in the courtyard. After walking some distance further, he finally saw the gate of the courtyard. There were two gatekeeper lions at the door. Morgans didn't even intend to observe them for fear of surprising himself. Just with a furtive glance, I understood that this was definitely jade material. Even the sphere that the lion shouted out seemed to be emerald. Before he could walk over, he saw a figure rushing out of the door. It was neither big nor small, but he recognized it. He was one of the two little guys who was taken away by Master Hammer when he participated in the Devil Fruit Trade Fair on Roaring Island. It seems to be called Peggy-wan, right? That's right, the little guy rushing out of the door is none other than Peggy-wan. He shouted with a panicked expression, I won't play anymore, I really won't play anymore. Before Morgans could react, he looked at a girl and rushed out from behind. It was Runty, the irritable Lolita. Stop, Ziope, Runty shouted. She moved too fast and didn't have time to turn. She hit the wall outside the door, causing a crack in the wall. But she was fine. After stopping her body, she chased Peggy-wan aggressively. In Morgan's sight, she grabbed Peggy-wan within a few steps, then pushed Peggy-wan to the ground and beat her violently. During the beating, he pulled down the luminous pearls inlaid on the roadside and used them to hit people. Regardless of whether he is cruel or not, Morgans feels distressed just looking at him. The walls painted with gemstone paint and the luxurious floor. How many Baileys are used to patch it up every year? Those two little bastards, don't you regard money as money? However, it seemed that Tetsalo and Umit did not feel distressed at all, and they were still chatting and laughing. Heritage, Morgans murmured softly, no longer worrying about this, it was not him spending the money anyway. At this moment, another figure walked out of the courtyard door. Beautiful, so beautiful. The first time Morgans looked at this figure, he almost fell into a state of being unable to extricate himself. His Highness Hancock Umit and Tizalo were much more serious this time, and they greeted each other very respectfully. Yes, the figure who came out was none other than the most beautiful woman in the world, the pirate Empress Boa Hancock. Hancock is very arrogant to many people, but to her own people in the Warhammer Pirates, she is very approachable. After hearing the voice, with a gentle smile on her face, she nodded at the three of Tizalo. The leader said, "You are here, come in quickly, it is very lively inside, today is a good day." After finishing speaking, Hancock shouted to Peggy-wan and Runty, Runty, Siope, stop making trouble and come in quickly. After Runty heard Hancock's call, She immediately jumped up from Peggy Wan's body and threw the priceless nightlight pearl into the fluorescent hay pile on the roadside like trash. And then jumped back towards Hancock. Morgans looked at the night pearl rolling down the roadside like garbage, and wanted to pick it up and take it home. Following Hancock's greeting, several people quickly walked into the courtyard. As soon as you enter, you can see people coming and going inside. It is really lively. Beautiful maids, holding trays in their hands, shuttled among the crowd, constantly bringing tea, drinks, wine glasses, and other things, replenishing the consumed fruits and snacks. Often those big shots who are rarely seen on weekdays, stamping their feet and making the sea tremble, gather together in small groups. For example, under a tree in the distance, the second in command of the Warhammer pirates, Ben Beckman, is sitting on a chair, holding a wine glass, and talking to the king of Dressrosa, the king's Shichibukai. Don Quixote da Flamingo was chatting and laughing. Both of them had smiles on their faces, and they didn't know what they were talking about. On the other side, the Golden Lion Chiji, who was once famous all over the world and traveled all over the world, was hanging out with a few little guys, and he seemed to be very happy. Morgans naturally recognized that the young man inside who was closest to Shiji was the biological son of the King of the Night, Kazguros Orgrim. Your Highness of Avalon. Kazgro and dressed. The former top CP-0 agent, Queen Stussy of Happy Street, was standing in front of a table with a smile, holding a kitchen knife in her hand, cutting vegetables and chatting with the little sisters beside her. Neiman was talking happily. The atmosphere was lively and reassuring. Just when Morgans was in a daze, they heard someone calling them. Hey, Tizalo, Umit, Morgans, come and sit here. What are you doing standing at the door? Big Brother Beckman waved to the three of them from a long distance away. Tetsalo and Umit were fine. They looked very natural. They smiled and waved to the other side, and passed the hands of a maid passing by. Picked up the wine glass and walked over. Morgans was a little embarrassed, but he quickly followed. Then, a few people sat together and chatted. Not long after, the door of the room in the courtyard was opened. Ogre Mew's tall and muscular figure walked out of it. He was holding a war hammer in his hand and said with a smile on his face, "Gee ha 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 ha, last time everyone ate my handmade meatballs, they seemed to be very happy, satisfied. We are happy to do it again for you today." As soon as he finished speaking, the maids quickly laid out a blanket on the free grass. Then, several maids worked together to place a huge piece of meat on it. They were talking to Rengar and the others. After the boastful Gangplank saw this scene, he put down the wine glass in his hand and shouted with a smile, "Ha ha ha, let me help you, Mr. Hammer. We are old partners. Come on, come on." Orgrim said happily. Then, the two guys started hitting meatballs. Morgans was stunned at this time. He really rarely comes into contact with Orgrim, but every time he comes into contact, the feeling Orgrim gives him is powerful, domineering, unequivocal, and very powerful. He previously thought that it was perfectly normal and that this was the aura that a top pirate should have. But now, he saw that the war hammer that was usually used to blow other people's heads off was used to beat meatballs by the strongest man who had reached the other side and stood at the end of his power. He had never seen Orgrim like this before. So Morgans was in a daze for a moment. Doflamingo seemed to notice this. He picked up the wine glass with a smile, took a sip and said, surprised. Morgans finally came back to his senses, then nodded and said, "It's actually a bit beyond me. Unexpectedly, I thought Mr. Chewy was that kind of person." "Ha ha ha ha, domineering and mighty," Beckman followed up and said. "Well, that's right, he is domineering and mighty. After all, that's how his image is mostly on the sea." Morgans didn't shy away from anything and said with a smile. "In fact, that guy has no airs at all on weekdays, especially to acquaintances," Beckman said with a smile. "Yes, Mr. Hammer has always been very kind to his own people, so the atmosphere here in Avalon is very good, Doflamingo also said with a smile. He didn't stay too much on this topic. Beckman seemed to have thought of something and urged him, "Hey, Dove, if we don't tell you, don't take it for granted." "I know." Doflamingo was stunned for a moment and asked a little strangely, "What the hell?" "You and Neiman, look, Andre is almost at the age of going to sea, you and Neiman, work hard," Beckman said with a smile. Doflamingo's expression showed a rare hint of panic. He quickly took a sip of wine and said, "Why are you in a hurry?" "I'm still young." "Ha ha ha ha, I can't wait, I want to be an uncle," Beckman laughed. At this moment, another figure walked in outside the courtyard door. As soon as this figure came in, he put his hands on his hips arrogantly, looking like a mother who is the best in the world, and shouted very stinkingly, "Ha ha ha ha." There was a loud bang in the sky, and I made a shining appearance. Yes, the person who came was the Sphinx. But after she finished her fart, she found that no one was paying attention to her. The Sphinx was very unhappy when she saw this and shouted, "Hey! No one came to greet me. You have gone too far." Beckman and Doflamingo didn't even look at her, and said with a smile, "Don't worry about her, this little guy is such a stinker every time." Morgan smiled reluctantly, not knowing how to answer the question for a moment. After all, in his opinion, Sphinx is also a serious figure, a veteran member of the Warhammer Pirates, extremely powerful, and a ruthless character who has been in the New World for many years and has killed countless people. There's no time for Sphinx, the grumpy loli, to lose her temper. Queen Stussy waved to her with a smile and said, "Sphinx, come here and help me peel onions, okay? I know you can always peel onions." The Sphinx, who was still a little irritable at first, heard what Queen Stussy said. The expression on her face immediately changed from cloudy to clear, and she said happily, "Humph, you know it very well, Stussy, leave it to me, I am the king of peeling onions." This, everyone in Morgan's is stupid. "See, I told you not to worry about her, the queen is very good at treating her," Doflamingo said with a smile. A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 605. The Sphinx was browed by Her Majesty the Queen and tricked into peeling onions. While peeling, tears streamed down my face. However, she was so proud that she refused to complain, so she could only swallow the pain in her stomach. But soon, this little loli seemed to have found the secret. She put the onion in the water and peeled it, and she suddenly became happy. "Hum hum, let me tell you, I am the king of peeling onions. From now on, just leave this kind of thing to me," the Sphinx said. Neiman looked at this little loli who was being treated obediently by her lady queen with some amusement, and said, okay, from now on I will leave it to you, the capable Sphinx." "Do." "That's not the case," the Sphinx said happily. After peeling for a while, the Sphinx's little head kept looking around the courtyard, and then asked a little strangely, "I thought I was the last one to come, why not? Did you see Enelu and Loki? Where did he go?" Now, in the courtyard, everyone who should come has already arrived. For example, Vinsmoke Gagi from the Kingdom of Germa, who also brought his wife Princess Sola who had been cured, is talking to Dr. Nightingale. The great scientists Caesar and Indigo were chatting together. As soon as Sphinx finished speaking, a figure came behind him, holding a recipe in his hand, as if he was studying the meal. "That's right, Nicole Robin." She listened to Sphinx's doubts and responded, "I went to the port to pick up someone. An important guest will come today." "Who?" asked the Sphinx in surprise. "Hades." Neiman responded softly. "Hades?" The Sphinx was stunned for a moment, then said that Shilbaz Riley. Her tone was very rude. However, although she is about the same size as Orgrim, in terms of her qualifications as a pirate, she is more powerful than Orgrim. At the beginning, She was also a historian. They are among the top cotters under G. Therefore, in real terms, there is really not much difference in status between Sphinx and Rayleigh. Yes, it's Rayleigh, they're coming, Orgrim invited them, Queen Stussy said with a smile. After hearing this, Sphinx glanced at the distance, where Boss Shiki was with Andrest and the others, smacked his lips and said, I don't know what Boss Shiki will do. I won't start a fight with him. At this moment, several more figures walked in outside the courtyard door. Enel, Lucci, Layli, and the proprietress Yachi are all here. After all, this guy Rayleigh is a real big boss. Although he has never been here, he is different from Morgans. He didn't feel cramped, on the contrary, he could move freely. Once inside, there was no need for Enelu and the others to guide anything. The old guy laughed. Ha 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 ha, Orgrim, what are you doing? Oh, Shiji is here too. It's been so many years since I last saw you. You bastard, you've lost a lot of your anger, Riley laughed and spoke. The proprietress Yachi stood beside him and greeted Queen Stussy with a smile. Hey, Stussy, we haven't seen each other for a while, right? Sister Yachi, you are finally here. You must stay longer this time so that I can learn how to mix drinks with you, Queen Stussy also responded with a smile. Orgrim hit him with a hammer, making the meat more muscular. Then he looked back at the door and laughed. Gee ha 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 ha, Rayleigh, you are here, I am here. Didn't I know that you were coming as a guest, so I made a meatball for you. I'm looking forward to it. It tastes very good, how about it? Is my Avalon not bad? Shiji glanced at Layli, a little confused. He said unhappily, you bastard, you're not dead yet. You are not dead, how could I die? Rayleigh said with a smile. It's not like the Sphinx imagined that Rayleigh and Shiki would fight. They hadn't seen each other for many years. Although the two people spoke with a strong smell of gunpowder, in fact, they still had some feelings for each other. It feels like an old friend. Yes, we have been to Avalon before. At that time, it was a mess, but now it is beyond my expectation. What a great place, especially your palace. You spent a lot of money on it, right? That lion at the door, can you pack it up and take it away before I leave? Riley said with a smile. Gee ha 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 ha, my family has a big business, this little money is nothing, Orgrim said scornfully. Alas, I'm in a miserable state. I lost a lot of money recently, Riley said somewhat bitterly. On the contrary, it was the proprietress Yachi who looked delighted and radiant. Obviously he made a lot of money with his blood. What's the loss? Orgrim asked in surprise. In his impression, isn't Rayleigh just a plater now? Has he started investing? He's making progress. Rayleigh waved his hand in distress and said, oh, you don't know, I bet on that bastard Newgate to win in the betting market of the dark world, and the result, blood loss. Orgrim almost cursed. You bastard, we have such a good relationship, you bet on Newgate to win? Do you look down on me? Orgrim said dissatisfied. At this time, the proprietress Yachi had already walked to the queen, washed her hands, and helped to handle the ingredients very skillfully. Yes, I am different, Orgrim, I have staked all my wealth on you. Well done, the landlady Yachi said happily. Gee ha 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 ha, the eldest sister still understands me. Orgrim laughed. Rayleigh ignored Orgrim. Instead, he looked at Shishi and asked, what about you, Shi? Ji's face twitched a little, and he said unhappily, same as you, blood loss. That's right, as Andrest's grandfather, as Orgrim's elder. Shit, this guy secretly bought Newgate to win. The result is naturally blood loss. Ha 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 ha, I feel much happier when I see that I am not the only one unlucky, Riley said with a laugh. Then he walked to Shiji, picked up a glass of wine from the table, and drank it happily. You bastard, do you want to fight? Shiji said unhappily. Forget it, we can't even fight Newgate, why should we fight? Riley waved his hand and said casually. As soon as he finished speaking, Shiji also said with a little emotion yes. He is also very hesitant and entangled now. The big plan that Indigo and the others have been tossing about has begun to be completed, and it will be completed in less than 2 years. However, Shiji felt that there was no need for him to bother anymore. He never expected that Orgrim would be so ferocious that he would reach the top in less than 20 years. He also defeated that guy from Newgate and became the strongest in the world. Now that the entire new world is crawling at Orgrim's feet, does Shiki really need to come out and mess around? Looking at and dressed again, Shiji felt very complicated. But he still hasn't made up his mind after all. What a great wine, Rayleigh tasted it first, then followed Shiki's gaze and asked, is this Orgrim's son? And dressed. He looks much more handsome than Orgrim, inherited his mother's advantages. Hello Mr. Riley, and dressed said politely. Ha 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 ha, hello, work hard. This sea does not belong to us, nor does it belong to Orgrim. It belongs to you young people, Riley laughed and spoke. At this time, the last hammer in Orgrim's hand fell. He straightened up and said, Pans, I'll leave it to you. Not far away, the giant chef who was playing with the barbecue turned his head and said, no problem. Her Lady Queen said with some dissatisfaction, I also want to make meatballs, you can't let me cut vegetables every time. As soon as Her Lady Queen finished speaking, everyone in the courtyard froze. On the contrary, guests like Morgans and Riley were a little confused. Beckman stood up, with a very serious tone, pointed at Orgrim and said sadly, Orgrim, I'm not telling you, you are simply too much. Doflamingo also followed suit. Said, yes, Lord Hammer, how could you do this? Orgrim. What the hell did I do? At this time, the Sphinx also seemed to have an IQ online. She threw away the onion in her hand, grabbed the slender white palm of Queen Stussy, looked at Orgrim with a very hateful look and said, look, you are good. Look, what a pair of beautiful palms these are. On weekdays, it's too late to take care of and protect them, but you actually let Sister Stussy chop vegetables. What if you get injured? Are you still a human? That's right, brother, you are going too far, Neiman also said with an expression of hatred for iron. I'm not, I don't, I really. Orgrim was about to open his mouth to defend, but Gangplank on the side covered Orgrim's mouth and whispered, Master Hammer, for everyone's safety, please suffer a little. Orgrim was so aggrieved that he didn't know what to say. At the same time, Hancock hurriedly walked to Her Majesty's side, supported Her Majesty, and said in a very concerned tone, Sister Stussy, you must be tired from all the work, right? Come on, follow me over there to rest. Just let Sphinx and the others do the rough work. Cooking and other things, where are you supposed to be tired? Right? Sphinx. Sphinx nodded quickly. He raised his head and said, that's right, I'll just come. Stussy, you go and have a rest. Neiman and I are here. Your Lady Queen? I think you just don't want to cook, right? My skills have improved, really. Trust me once. Riley and Morgans were confused. What was going on? He didn't know what was going on, so Riley said very dissatisfied, what are you doing? Stussy has this hobby and interest, she should show it. After saying that, Riley looked at Stussy with a smile. Queen Tootsie said, Stussy, you will make 2 portions for me later. If they don't eat, I will eat. Stussy looked at Riley at this time, how he liked it, and said happily, okay, I will try my best. Seeing this, the proprietress Yachi also felt a little embarrassed and was about to speak up to echo Lei. Neiman took Xiaqi's hand and shook her head at Xiaqi with a very serious look. Xiaqi was stunned for a moment, and seemed to realize the seriousness of the problem, so he nodded quickly and stopped talking. On the other side, Morgans is also ready to support the queen. After all, pillow style can be very effective sometimes. After coaxing Her Majesty the Queen, and taking the Madam route, maybe there will be some unexpected gains. But just when he was about to speak, Doflamingo whispered Morgans, if you don't want to be poisoned to death, I advise you not to speak. The Queen's craftsmanship is biochemical grade. Biochemical grade, everyone in Morgans is stupid. Yes, when it comes to toxins, I am willing to give up, Beckman also said very seriously. Let's put it this way, with Master Chui's physical condition, he has been knocked down before, I'm afraid that Dr. Nightingale won't be able to save you by then, Tetsalo also added. After hearing these words, Morgans immediately gave up his original idea. It's better to lick Mr. Zui, the road of the Queen is too dangerous. He's not as courageous as Rayleigh. Warrior, true warrior, Rayleigh, I would like to call you the strongest. Chiji patted Rayleigh on the shoulder and said very seriously. Rayleigh. What the hell are you talking about? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 606. On the dining table, there are all kinds of food and wine. All the big guys have already taken their seats. But at this time, no one moved their chopsticks to eat. Instead, they all stared at the only warrior present, Rayleigh. There were 2 plates of exquisite food in front of Riley, one was braised meatballs and the other was croquettes. In terms of appearance, both dishes are very good and look very appetizing. Therefore, Laylee felt a lot more relieved. Well, no matter what happens, it's impossible to really eat people to death, right? Riley muttered in his heart. Then, he saw everyone staring at him and said somewhat unhappily, are you looking at what I do? You should eat it. Orgrim saw this, smiled and said, Nightingale, your position is not suitable, so go next to Rayleigh. Nightingale, who was sitting next to Plank and others, was stunned for a moment, then nodded quickly and said yes, I didn't expect this. Rengar, who was beside Rayleigh, quickly stood up and changed positions with Nightingale. Then, Orgrim picked up a glass of wine and said, we are almost all here today, and a few guests have arrived. I am really happy. I, Orgrim, have been able to make it this far, and the Warhammer Pirates, is it because of the efforts of one person that I can get to where I am today? Impossible. It is the joint efforts of everyone here, whether it is my partners or my friends. Without your support and help, I will definitely not be able to achieve this goal. It won't go so smoothly. This glass of wine is a toast to the future and victory. Beckman also smiled and said, at the beginning, we gathered together because of fate. Now, we also sit together because of fate. Victory belongs to us, the future also belongs to us, respect the future, and respect the victory. The next era belongs to the Warhammer Pirates. Neiman also shouted. Lucci was also very excited and shouted, victory belongs to Lord Orgrim, victory belongs to the Warhammer Pirates. It's obvious that we are invincible, Enelu smiled and said softly. The history that follows should be written by us, Robin also said with a smile. Ha 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 ha, yes, we are the most powerful pirate group in the world, the Sphinx also laughed proudly. Cheers. Orgrim laughed. After saying that, everyone raised their glasses and drank the wine in their hands. After putting it down, Orgrim looked at Rayleigh again, and then said in a deep voice, here. Come on, have a second cup, here's to the warriors. As soon as he finished speaking, Queen Stussy glared at Orgrim fiercely and said, are you dissatisfied with my cooking skills? What the hell, thanks to your cooking skills, I was able to defeat Newgate on Roaring Island. You don't know how much your cooking skills helped me, Orgrim said righteously. Hank sat aside and was stunned for a moment, then laughed. Queen Stussy is a little surprised. Am I such a good cook? Rayleigh, come on, try it. Orgrim changed the subject and said to Rayleigh. Rayleigh frowned and said, you people are so picky. From the moment you entered Avalon, I understood that you are all wealthy seafarers. Thief, life is too good to bear hardships. Think back to when we were sailing on the sea. Rayleigh first came to talk about reminiscing about the glorious past, pretending to be an old-timer, and preaching to Orgrim and the others. But what is surprising is that Orgrim and the others were very respectful, with a learned expression, and nodded frequently to Rayleigh, thinking that what he said was right. Rayleigh was satisfied when he saw this, and then picked up a braised meatball in front of him and said, Stussy may lack a little skill, but what can really go wrong with such a simple dish? You can't eat dead people, right? Ha 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 ha. Yes, braised meatballs and fried meatballs are very simple dishes. Generally speaking, it is difficult to make them super unpalatable. As long as the meatballs are good meatballs, it won't be a big problem. Now, it is certain that the meatballs are definitely good ones. Needless to say, the materials used are made by Orgrim himself. How could it possibly be a problem? Certain in his heart, under the expectant gazes of everyone, Rayleigh took the meatball into his mouth in one bite. Then, Rayleigh's expression changed, his eyes bulged slightly, and 2 beads of cold sweat broke out from his forehead. He almost spit out all the balls. But Queen Stussy was looking at him expectantly at this moment. This made Rayleigh very uncomfortable. If he spit it out, wouldn't it be a slap in the face? At the same time, Orgrim and others also looked like they were waiting for him. This made Rayleigh feel cruel. He gritted his teeth, chewed twice, swallowed the ball directly into his stomach, and said, Look, I said there will be no problem. The taste is actually quite good. I think you are. Orgrim and others were shocked. Damn it, you are such a fucking warrior. Could it be that Her Majesty the Queen's craftsmanship has really improved today? Let's just say, how can a person not make any progress at all? After so many years, he should. But before everyone's surprise could subside, Rayleigh's face turned pale, he covered his chest, and whispered in pain, help me. Then, the whole person fell down from the chair. Seeing this scene, everyone was not surprised but delighted. Yes. Yes. This is the script. Damn it, he almost fell into the trap of you, an old bastard. Sister Xiaoqi panicked and said, Lila, what's wrong with you? Hancock, who was sitting next to her, grabbed Sister Xiaoqi's head and said, Sister Xiaoqi, don't worry, Dr. Nightingale is here. Nightingale seemed to be waiting for Raleigh to lie down. Without saying a word, she raised her hand and pulled out a halo of energy, which directly enveloped Raleigh's body. Then, with a slight flick of his finger, the meatball that Rayleigh had just eaten was directly removed out of thin air. At this time, everyone looked at the meatball again. For some reason, it was emitting black and purple smoke. Nima, what kind of craft is this? Without any hesitation, Nightingale moved her fingers again and threw all the remains of the meatballs into the trash can. Well, another warrior falls. Orgrim sighed. Queen Stussy, blushing with shame, pretended to be calm, picked up the drink, took a sip and said, it won't be like this next time. I will definitely make something that satisfies everyone of cuisine. When Doflamingo heard this, he quickly waved his hand and said, No, no need at all. Your Majesty, you have satisfied everyone. Everyone has their limits. Even my hawk, who has always been aloof, couldn't help but say, yes, Stussy, you don't have to be like this. Everyone has things they are not good at. Like me, I am not good at using a hammer at all. You are already perfect enough. If you continue to improve yourself in this way, Orgrim will not be worthy of you. This is not good. Orgrim also grabbed the Queen's slender palm and said seriously, yes, I am very stressed when you are like this. People can't be too perfect, otherwise they will have no friends. Queen Stacy was almost moved to tears by Orgrim and the others. And Orgrim and the others were almost frightened to tears by the queen. At this moment, Sphinx asked Beckman, "What are you doing? Why are you packing the meatballs?" That's right, Beckman was packing the meatballs in Rayleigh's position while no one was paying attention. At this time, Laylee also got up from the ground, staggered to sit on the chair, and said, "It doesn't have to be like this. If you want to eat, just take it." "I won't eat it. It's because I am too young. I have lived for 70 years old, I don't even know how dangerous the world is." Beckman said awkwardly, "I misunderstood, I'm going to take it back for study." "What to study?" Neiman also asked curiously. "Ahem, what is that? Do some research and see if you can analyze the principles behind it, which might help my fruit ability," Beckman said, a little embarrassed. Her lady queen's face was extremely red at this time. Orgrim saw this and scolded Beckman, "What are you doing? If you have this kind of problem, why don't you come and ask our Stussy for advice in private? I'll keep you strong." Queen Stussy almost kicked Orgrim out when she heard this. But everyone started laughing. This little storm came to an end. Soon, everyone officially started the meal and started to enjoy the meal. Yamato very considerately gave Andrest a piece of meat. Anders said with a very happy expression, "Thank you very much, Yamato." "You're welcome, you have to eat more. You are too thin now. You look like a bean sprout and you don't feel powerful at all. You have to be like my bastard father and Uncle Orgrim. Then that's what you call a real man, handsome," Yamato warned. Andrest's face turned bitter, and he felt very sad. Yamato was his childhood sweetheart and fiancé. He didn't understand when he was a child, but now, Andrest understands. He knows that his future will be he will definitely get together with Yamato and start his own family like his father and mother. This is not just responsibility and engagement, it represents the core interests of the Beasts Pirates and the Warhammer Pirates. In fact, Andre Ste also likes Yamato very much. After all, Yamato is cute and beautiful, and his strength can be said to be strong among his peers. He has no shortcomings. How could he not like it? But what is more uncomfortable is that Yamato has had some problems with aesthetics since he was a child. And in other words, her aesthetics is more towards muscles. Orgrim and Kaido, you say they are powerful and domineering, full of heroic and masculine atmosphere. It is absolutely not wrong. But if you really insist on saying that they are too a handsome man, this is a bit against my will. I won't mention Kaido. As for Orgrim, he is not ugly, but there is really nothing handsome about him. He just has that macho look. On the contrary, Andrest is a serious and handsome young man. He inherited the handsomeness of Queen Stussy. He has the heroic demeanor of Orgrim and the sharpness tempered by Mihawk. He has superb appearance and a very noble status. Placed on the sea, he is a tall, rich, and handsome person. But in Yamato's eyes, Andrest's figure is not domineering at all. Not handsome at all. In Yamato's eyes, a person like Orgrim should be handsome and worthy of these two words. I'm thin, I'm a little thinner, but I'm not emaciated, right? Have a look, Andrest said as he rolled up his sleeves, showing off the strong muscles on his arms. Yamato curled his lips disdainfully and said, "Anyway, compared with Uncle Orgrim, he is far behind." Andrest was hurt but didn't know what to say. On the other side, Runty placed the lobster in front of Peggywan. Peggywan was not moved at all. On the contrary, her face was very sad. Sure enough, the next second, Runty said, "Xiaopei, help me peel this lobster." "Why don't you peel it yourself?" Peggywan said angrily. As soon as he said this, Runty hit him on the head with a headbutt and shouted, "I want you to peel it off for me." The Sphinx couldn't stay idle either. He threw his lobster in front of Peggy Wan and said, "One of them is busy, and both of them are also busy. I leave it to you, Pepet." Hateful. Senior Lucci. Peggy Wan asked for help. In his opinion, Senior Lucci is a brave warrior who resisted the witch and will definitely save him. Out of the sea of suffering, right? But at this time, Lucci didn't dare to show his head at all, pretending not to hear, and eating the lobster roughly. Robin looked at Lucci with a smile and said, "You are about to lose a loyal little brother, Lucci." "Alas, the sea is so cruel," Lucci said with some emotion, and then continued to eat. "It's fun. A sledgehammer breaks into pirates." Author, Zippo. Chapter 607. The courtyard was still very lively. But the banquet is over, and everyone is just gathering here to talk about those messy things. After all, the Warhammer pirates are getting bigger and bigger now, and many people often leave Avalon to deal with important matters. It is often difficult to get together in such a complete way and enhance their relationship. At this time in the house, Orgrim was sitting on the sofa. Robin was quietly pouring tea aside, while Hancock was cutting fruit. As for Queen Stussy, she was entertaining the big guys in the courtyard as the hostess. Opposite the sofa sat Morgans, the president of News of the World. Although at the banquet just now, he was able to integrate into the atmosphere of the Warhammer pirates. But at this time, he met Orgrim, the top boss, alone. Still feeling a little uneasy, he sat on the sofa in an upright manner, only daring to sit with half of his buttocks. Robin handed a cup of tea to Orgrim and another cup to Morgans. Morgans took the tea and said sincerely, "Thank you very much, Miss Robin." "You're welcome, you're a guest, don't be so formal," Robin said with a smile. Hancock also placed the fruit on the table and said with a smile, "Come on, eat some." Morgans felt incredible at this time. The pirate empress, known as the most beautiful woman in the world, actually cut fruit for him. Alas, I am afraid that only in Avalon, Warhammer Pirates, and Lord Hammer's house can I enjoy this kind of treatment. If you tell it, it will last a lifetime. Orgrim first picked up the teacup and took a sip, and then said with a smile, "Eat some fruit, and don't be so formal. We are old friends, Morgans." Only then did Morgans dare to reach out for the fruit, took 2 bites and said, "Yes, it is really an honor for me to be friends with Mr. Chewie." "Gee, ha 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 ha, that's what I said," Orgrim laughed first, and then asked, "What do you want to do here this time?" Morgans smiled, and then said, "First of all, of course, congratulations to you for defeating Whitebeard. You deserve to be the strongest in the world." Orgrim nodded and said with a smile, "Thank you very much. Secondly, I want to ask, Master Chewie, do you have any advice for our World News newspaper? Next, how should we speak in the new world?" Morgans said quickly. Orgrim raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, "Morgans, do you know why I admire you so much? You, like Umit, are different from those messy emperors of the dark world. Umit is also very visionary and very courageous." Orgrim asked him for a word, and he did not hesitate to spend all his money on Avalon. This is courage. Orgrim did not live up to his loyalty and rewarded him 1,000 times. This is the courage he should have as a commander, to respond to the expectations of his subordinates. They sacrificed their loyalty, wealth, and lives, and Orgrim naturally wanted to give them a future. This makes sense. Morgans is also special. He is not loyal to Orgrim, but he is a very discerning guy who can analyze and see the situation and the future. Therefore, he never caused trouble for Orgrim in the new world. He can always flatter Orgrim at the right time, which makes Orgrim very happy. On the contrary, Orgrim didn't look down on any of the other so-called emperors in the dark world. Moreover, those guys have been squeezed by Avalon's dark group and are no longer as coquettish as they used to be. Now, being able to earn a living in the dark world is considered a good thing. What kind of emperor? Shit. Morgan smiled and said, "You are still more capable, Mr. Chui. I admire you from the bottom of my heart. Naturally, I want to get closer to you, Mr. Chui." Gee ha 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 ha, Orgrim laughed first, then put down the teacup in his hand and said, "The new world is still the new world. Just do whatever you want. Just don't make me unhappy. The rest will be fine, I don't even care." Even though Orgrim said something like "just do whatever you have to do." But the meaning of the sentence "don't make me unhappy" is already obvious. That is because Orgrim does not allow it. In the new world, there are people who are against him. As for those little bits and pieces, in other words, in the pirate camp, there can only be one voice for him, Orgrim, and for the rest, it's not as difficult as yours, Morgan's. So what kind of trouble does the Navy come up with? He would not blame the news of the world. Morgans was convinced, nodded quickly and said, "Understood, I understand. Come, have tea." Orgrim took another sip of tea. Morgans quickly followed suit. After finishing the drink, Morgans asked Master Hammer, "You also know that I, the news of the world, want to be number one hands-on news. Normally, I don't have the chance to ask anything. This time, if you don't mind, may I ask a few questions? Of course, if it's not convenient for you to answer, just pretend I didn't ask." Orgrim grinned and said, "Just ask." Morgans didn't really intend to turn this conversation with Hammer into an interview and publish it. In fact, this means more about understanding Orgrim's thoughts. If we can understand Orgrim's thoughts and what changes will occur in the new world in the future, we can use Orgrim's thoughts to speculate on how the Warhammer pirates will respond and how things will develop. It is best to plan ahead in advance so that you can get first-hand information. After getting Ariam's approval, Morgans was no longer polite. He is very dedicated when it comes to big news matters. "Mr. Hammer, now in the new world, the Warhammer pirates are the dominant one, and you have become the overlord of the pirates. I wonder if you have understood some of the opinions I published in the newspaper before? If so, do you think there are any omissions in my opinion?" Morgans asked. "You're saying that the next era will be an era of heaven and earth duel between our pirates and our navy, right?" Orgrim smiled and said. "It seems that you have read the newspaper." "Yes, this is probably what I expected," Morgans nodded. Orgrim leaned back and leaned on the back of the sofa. Hancock walked up behind Orgrim and stretched out his hand to squeeze Orgrim's shoulders. Robin was also very curious and sat on the sofa nearby, holding a notebook in his hand, observing the conversation between Orgrim and Morgans. After thinking for a moment, Orgrim said, "Absolutely." Morgans's eyes lit up. Sure enough, Mr. Hammer would eventually take action against the Navy. You should understand, Morgans, in this world, where there is light, there is shadow. There is Judicial Island, which is known as the island that never sleeps, and naturally we have Avalon, the land of eternal night. For hundreds of thousands of years, this world, the sea, have thieves ever been completely eliminated? Orgrim asked. Morgans shook his head and said, "There has never been complete annihilation. Yes, in the same way, 800 years ago, I don't know what kind of power there was on the sea to fight against pirates, but now, 800 years later, the Navy has always been there, ups and downs, to fight against us pirates." You say, Navy? No, it should be said, is it possible for this self-proclaimed force of justice to be eliminated? Orgrim asked again. Morgan still shook his head without hesitation and said, "Impossible." Yes, it's impossible. Orgrim nodded. Smiling again, Orgrim said, "If you want to completely eliminate the pirates and the Navy, even if you search to the end of the sea, there will be no solution method, so this future era will indeed be an era where we pirates and navies compete on the sea. What is there to fight for? Completely eliminate the opponent? No, that's completely impossible. Morgans knew that he had reached a critical point and couldn't help but ask, "What do you mean, Mr. Hammer?" "New World," Orgrim said in a deep voice. Before Morgans could speak, Orgrim took out a cigar from his arms and bit it on his mouth. Robin moved his slender arm from the sofa. He picked up a lighter from the table next to him and lit a cigar for Orgrim. Orgrim slowly exhaled a puff of smoke and grinned. "I don't care about other places. In fact, I can't control that much, but as a pirate, the top pirate, I naturally have to seek more benefits for the pirate camp. The New World is a me. Bottom line is that here, there can only be the power of the pirates. If anyone from the other forces dares to put their hand in, I will stamp on his hand." Morgan's eyes lit up and he said, "In other words, Mr. Hammer, your plan is to just drive the Navy out of the New World." "Theoretically, this is true, but it also depends on the method used." Orgrim nodded in approval. "Way," Morgans frowned slightly, a little confused. "That's right, way." Orgrim smiled, and then explained, "Let me ask you, the Navy seems to have gained a foothold in the New World portal sea, but have they really stood firm? If I want to kick them out, can I do it?" Morgans weighed it in his mind and immediately said, "There is no doubt that it can be done. After all, the Warhammer pirates are the overlord of the New World. The Navy has just entered the New World and has occupied a lot of territory. But after all, the foundation is unstable." "That's right, but I didn't do it because it made no sense at all." Orgrim exhaled a puff of smoke. Before Morgans could speak, Orgrim continued, "This is not an unacceptable result for the Navy. I can drive the Navy out today, and tomorrow, those bastards can do some little tricks again and put their hands in again." Morgans nodded involuntarily, acknowledging Orgrim's words. "Do you think this is annoying?" "It's definitely annoying, but how can we make the Navy stop engaging in these little tricks and give up? The answer is to beat them hard and make them understand that as long as I, Orgrim, am still in the New World, they will never even think of reaching out to the New World," Orgrim said in a deep voice. Then, his expression changed, he smiled again, and asked, "Tell me, how can I hurt the Navy?" Morgans hesitated for a moment and said uncertainly, "Defeat the Navy headquarters head-on, for example, destroy Marineford." "What? Gee, ha 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 ha, it is true to defeat the Navy headquarters head-on, but destroying Marineford seems a bit stupid. Just as the foundation of the Navy is not in the New World, the foundation of our Warhammer pirates is not in other sea areas. The Navy is not a place that can. If I really lead the Warhammer pirates to attack this opponent I underestimated, yes, I can do it. I may also be able to destroy the Navy headquarters and give the Navy the heaviest blow, but, Morgans, what will happen to our Warhammer pirates?" Orgrim asked with a grin. Morgans thought for a moment and said, "The losses are heavy. The Navy headquarters is, after all, the overlord of the sea. Their power cannot be underestimated. Yes, when the time comes, those bastards who want to replace me in the New World will be very happy." Orgrim smiled. Hearing this, Morgan seemed to have thought of something and said, "So, Mr. Hammer, what you mean is to put the Navy into the New World to fight. If the Navy is put into the New World to fight, that would be serious. The entire pirate force went to fight against the naval force, not just a matter of fighting off the Hammer pirates alone. Master Chui, are you planning to drag all the pirates into the water? At the same time, the New World is the base camp of the Warhammer pirates, where they can better utilize their advantages. On the contrary, the Navy appears weaker. But they have to accept the move. After all, if you want to get involved in the influence of the New World, you have to enter the New World. And when entering the New World, it seems that they are in the first place, and they are one step behind the Warhammer pirates. This." For a moment, Morgans was a little confused. "Is there a game here? Damn, it's really scary when you big guys compete with each other." "Ha ha ha, I didn't say that. The Navy wanted to come in, and I didn't invite them, Orgrim said with a laugh. A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 608. After thinking for a while, Morgans quickly ended the topic. He is very smart and knows that it is almost done by asking this point. Mr. Chui can tell him these words, and he is not afraid of him breaking the news. Because this is also an upright conspiracy, does it mean that if he breaks the news, the Navy will not enter the New World? That seems better. It directly means that the Navy is afraid of the Warhammer pirates. The New World completely belongs to the pirate camp, so the Warhammer pirates have no trouble. But if you ask further, ask about the plans of the Warhammer pirates. He just stepped on the line. Whether Mr. Zui would tell him otherwise, but the impression he left on Mr. Chui would definitely be deducted. So Morgan stopped asking the deep questions. Lord Hammer, now, Charlotte Lingling has been captured into Impelton, and the Big Mom pirates have also been torn apart and have disappeared into the sea. One of the 4 emperors has fallen, and you have also become one. The most powerful pirate overlord in the New World. Look, this layout of the 4 emperors, it still counts, Morgans asked. Yes, Charlotte Lingling has fallen behind, and Orgrim has reached the top again. Do these 4 emperors still count? Orgrim took a sip of tea, smiled and said, whether the 4 emperors count or not, and whether this pattern is broken, is not up to me, it's the sea that has the final say. This, what's the meaning? Morgan seemed to understand a little bit, but still asked with some doubts. What are the Yonko? He is the pirate emperor, an existence that cannot be surpassed by most pirates. Although I defeated Newgate, it is true that I defeated Newgate as the 4 emperors, and the rest there is still no possibility of defeating Newgate as a pirate. Therefore, although Newgate lost, no one on the sea will think that he is weak. He is still considered a Yonko. Although I won, but whether I have transcended the category of the 4 emperors or not depends on what the people on the sea think of me. I personally think that I may have reached a new level, but it seems that the vast majority of people still regard me as a person. As the pirate emperor, as for this pirate overlord, it seems that he is still within the scope of the 4 emperors, Orgrim said softly. Orgrim is right. He is now recognized as the pirate overlord on the sea. But the general perception on the sea seems to think that this is different from Orgrim's, for there is no contradiction in the identity of the emperor. He is the overlord of the sea and the most powerful Yonko. The two are not very conflicting. If the Yonko is denied, it seems to deny Kaido and Whitebeard. Orgrim personally stands on from a higher perspective. Of course, one can feel that one can deny them. But 99% of the people in the sea are not qualified to deny them. Therefore, at present, the concept of 4 emperors has not been denied or overturned in the sea. Orgrim is still the 4 emperors, Newgate and Kaido, and he is still the pirate emperor. Just like in the original story, Whitebeard is the strongest man, and the Whitebeard pirates are the strongest pirates. A band of thieves, but isn't he also the 4 emperors? As for Charlotte Lingling, she is a relatively special phenomenon, and I am afraid this phenomenon will not happen again in the future. In fact, the position she vacates is the key to whether the Yonko pattern can continue, Ogurmu said. Morgans nodded involuntarily, and then Orgrim continued. If someone can jump out, take up Charlotte Lingling's position, become the new pirate emperor, and be recognized by the sea, then naturally it complements the so-called 4 emperors pattern. So for a long time to come, I think the 4 emperors will still exist, and the 4 emperors pattern will continue. Morgan's eyes lit up and he asked Master Chui, do you think someone can fill this position and become the new 4 emperors? Orgrim grinned and said, of course there are. There are many silver medal players in the sea. Who do you think it will be? Morgans asked again. Orgrim raised his eyebrows and asked, who do you think has the most qualifications in the sea today? Morgans was silent for a moment, and then said, Sand crocodile. Yes, crocodile, I also think he is more likely. Orgrim nodded and said. Morgans showed an expression of sure enough, but soon he became confused. But Lord Hammer, although Crocodile has certain qualifications to become the new pirate emperor, but he is only qualified. Compared with Kaido and Newgate, he is still far behind, let alone you. Can he really be a Yonko like this? Gee ha 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 ha, this is not decided by me, it is decided by the sea. If people on the sea think that they can be the four emperors, they will naturally do it. What you are saying is that they are comparing themselves to me. Seems too weak, is it appropriate, right? Orgrim said with a laugh. Yes, that's pretty much what it means. Morgans nodded quickly and said. Doesn't Charlotte Lingling look weak compared to me? But she still sat in the position of the four emperors. Whether Crocodile can sit in this position is not a question of whether those of us who are already the four emperors can defeat him. It is a matter of accept us. Can anyone defeat him? If not, he would be ranked fourth. Then, it is reasonable to become the four emperors, but perhaps, just like Charlotte Lingling, he will become the weakest and most challenged. Just the goal. Orgrim said with a smile. Ah, I see. Morgans felt that he understood something. Orgrim and the others are already the pirate emperor. Whether they can defeat Crocodile is not the factor that determines whether Crocodile can become the four emperors. Because among the pirate emperors, there are also strong and weak ones. For example, Orgrim is undoubtedly stronger than Newgate, but isn't Newgate also the four emperors? Once upon a time, Charlotte Lingling was among the four. The weakest one is also a Yonko, isn't it? Therefore, this will not affect Crocodile's promotion and salary increase. On the contrary, whether the rest of the people in the sea can defeat Crocodile will determine whether he can become a Yonko. The key. If Crocodile enters the New World and sets up a flag, there will definitely be countless silver medal players looking for trouble for him. If he can survive it and win, he will naturally be able to sit still, even if he is regarded as the weakest. Yonko is also a Yonko. And currently, whether from the perspective of Morgans or Orgrim, Crocodile is the most outstanding one among the silver medal players. Therefore, he should be the silver medal player most likely to become the Yonko. But soon, Morgans asked again, Master Hammer, if Crocodile really becomes the Yonko, what will happen if Crocodile really becomes the Yonko? It should be said that if he really enters the New World, then what attitude will the Warhammer pirates have towards him? I think there are only so many benefits in the New World. The Warhammer pirates will really let Crocodile rise to become one of the four emperor. Gee ha 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 ha, good question. Orgrim laughed. After laughing, Orgrim said, Morgans, do you say that all the interests of the New World are in the hands of my Warhammer pirates? Morgans shook his head without hesitation and said, that's not true. This is it. Therefore, whether I will deal with Crocodile depends on whether Crocodile is smart enough. If he comes up and causes trouble with me in the New World, then I will definitely not tolerate this guy. Yes, how Shanks got out of the New World back then, he will get out of the New World for me the same way. Orgrim said with an evil smile. After a slight pause, Orgrim continued, but if he is smart enough and does not cause trouble with me, then there will be many more of me in the New World. The interests that the pirate group has no control over, these people, no matter how much they like to toss, whether they can become the four emperors or not, it has little to do with my Warhammer Pirates group. On the contrary, it has a lot to do with our entire pirate camp. It's beneficial. Morgans nodded and then asked, what is the benefit? Don't forget, Crocodile's identity is the Shishibukai, the king. Although he cannot really cooperate with the navy, if he wants to seize the position of the Yonkou, he must give up his identity as the Shishibukai. Otherwise, he will not be recognized by the pirates. Therefore, when he enters the New World, he will have to give up his identity as King Shishibukai. In any case, it will be a loss of interests for the navy. On the contrary, if he does not enter in the New World, no matter how you look at it, there is a possibility that he will continue to use his identity as King Shishibukai to cause trouble. What does this mean? Orgrim asked. What does it mean? Morgans asked with some confusion. It means that if he does not enter the New World, he will inevitably join forces with the Navy to target the pirate camp, especially our four emperors, and use this method to seize higher power and status like Shanks, but no matter what, he has joined forces with the Navy. If he wants to join forces, the Navy must also gain benefits. Of course, these benefits must come from the pirate camp. It will be a loss to the entire pirate camp, but if he enters the New World, he will having to give up his identity as King Shishibukai. It is naturally impossible to join forces with the Navy. On the contrary, he will definitely become the enemy of the Navy and strengthen the strength of the pirate camp in the New World. You think, in this era of competition between the Navy and pirates, which one is more important to the Navy? Are pirates more advantageous? Orgrim asked with a smile. Enter the New World, more advantageous, Morgans replied hesitantly. No need to hesitate, that's right, so we, the Warhammer pirates, will not stop Crocodile from entering the New World at all, nor will we care whether he is a Yonko or not. He is capable, of course, as long as you don't offend me, just don't make me angry. If you make me angry, don't say that he is not a Yonko anymore. Even if he is a Yonko, so what? I can't cure him, Orgrim said with a very confident tone. After hearing this, Morgans finally reacted. He figured out one thing. After understanding this matter, he completely understood Orgrim's thoughts. Big Hi may regard the four emperors as very important, and he, Morgans, did the same before. He will regard the four emperors as the same class. But at this time, Orgrim, although still within the category of the four emperors, as he said just now, he thinks that he has transcended this realm. But the general perception in the sea still regards him as the four emperors, the strongest four emperors. But for himself, it doesn't matter whether there are four emperors or not. It doesn't matter to him how many pirate emperors there are. In fact, as long as it does not affect the interests of the Warhammer pirates, Orgrim still maintains a welcoming attitude. Why? Because Orgrim is confident and the Warhammer pirates are confident. At the same time, they are powerful. What happened to the Yonko? It's not like they haven't been defeated. You just be the Yonko and don't provoke the Warhammer pirates. To create trouble for Orgrim, you can do whatever you like. But if you jump up and down, even if you have become some kind of Yonko, Orgrim can still kill you, and even kill you. Therefore, for Orgrim, whether the four emperors pattern can continue, and who will become the four emperors. None of this makes any sense. They are all imaginary. Therefore, he will maintain a neutral attitude of no objection, as long as you want those who are vying for the position of the four emperors, don't mess with Orgrim. He doesn't care at all if you mess with him. After all, it makes no difference to Orgrim whether you are the four emperors or not. He wants to beat you. I can still beat you. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 609. In the courtyard, Plank was holding an apple in his hand. While eating it, he was talking about something with Beckman and others. That guy Morgans, what did you say to Mr. Hammer when you went in? Gangplank asked. Doflamingo smiled and said, what else could it be, it's nothing more than coming to pay homage to the doc and explore Mr. Hammer's thoughts. That's right, especially the so-called four emperors pattern. Beckman smiled. At this moment, Mihawk came over and asked, by the way, what does Orgrim think of this four emperors pattern? It has nothing to do with his thoughts. The Yonko is not a Yonko. It is completely meaningless to us now, isn't it? Beckman said with a smile. Then, Everyone was stunned for a moment, and then they all laughed. Yes, the Yonko and so on have no meaning to their Warhammer pirates. At this moment, the phone bug in Plank's arm suddenly rang. As Avalon's intelligence chief, even if he came to attend a banquet or something, the phone bug was still with him. He took out the phone bug from his arms and did not shy away from anything. After all, here are all the core members of the Warhammer pirates, there is no need to avoid anything. Gangplank directly answered the phone and asked, "It's me. Master Gangplank, something happened over there in Alabasta where you asked me to keep an eye on," an intelligence officer said quickly. Plank's eyes lit up and he asked with some anticipation what happened. Crocodile, 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 seized the royal power of Alabasta. Currently, the king of Nefertali clan, Nefertali Cobra, has been executed by him, and he quickly pacified Alabasta. Stan's rebellion, with the support of a group of nobles and a large number of people, became the new king of Alabasta, the intelligence boy reported. Plank was stunned for a moment, and Beckman and others also looked a little surprised. Crocodile. This guy is really awesome. Even the Nefertali clan dares to kill, then but the 20 legitimate descendants of the king. He also seized the kingship of Alabasta and ascended the throne with extremely high support. What a great means. This time, the sand crocodile's background is finally established. However, Alabasta was in the first half of the Grand Line after all, and Plank and others still felt a little strange. Is there any big significance in doing this? Are all the Nefertali royal family dead? Beckman thought of something and asked. The intelligence guy didn't hesitate and said immediately, it doesn't seem to be the case. It seems that Cobra's daughter, the original princess of Alabasta, Nefertali Vivi, escaped. She arrived in Alabasta, her whereabouts are unknown, and Crocodile is searching for her with all his strength. Interesting, Beckman grinned. Crocodile seemed to ascend to the throne with the support of the people. But there must be a conspiracy. After all, Doflamingo ascended the throne of Dressrosa with the support of the people, but no one knows what the means behind this are. It's true that Doflamingo is not a good person, but is Crocodile just that? That guy must be entering a new world. I don't know how he plans to arrange Alabasta, but Alabasta must be an important force for him. The millions of troops and vast territory are all his help. Although the Warhammer pirates don't think Crocodile is qualified to challenge them. But Beckman still plans to plant some seeds first, just in case Crocodile becomes bigger and stronger in the future and wants to cause trouble with the Warhammer pirates or something. That can also be conveniently used to deal with him. At the same time, although Beckman does not often use conspiracy, it does not mean that he will not use conspiracy. In fact, he is also an old scheming person. Nefertali's runaway princess. There is a lot of room for operation. I can't use it now, but in the future, if I can use it, it will be good. Maybe, all the achievements made by Crocodile can be swallowed into the mouths of the Warhammer pirates. For example, supporting the princess to take revenge. Seize the legitimate royal power of Alabasta or something. In just a short moment, Beckman had already thought of many methods, so he smiled and said to the phone bug, "Hurry up and find the escaped princess of Nefertali. There is no need to do anything to her, just keep an eye on her. Let her suffer some human suffering first. The most important thing is that Crocodile must not let Crocodile find her and kill her. Do you understand?" On the other side of the phone, the intelligence guy responded quickly, "Yes." After hanging up the phone, Plank said thoughtfully, "Using Crocodile." Beckman smiled and said, "It can't be called a use, right? I just arranged it casually. If you need it in the future, you'll use it naturally. If you don't, it won't take much effort anyway, right? Phew 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 phew, as expected of you, you can think of these twists and turns in just a moment." Doflamingo smiled and said. Mihawk didn't care about this and said Crocodile has seized the kingship of Alabasta, so no matter what his next step is, he seems to be entering a new world. He probably won't be able to do this under the Kabutai king. I wonder if the Navy will deal with him. Plank smacked his lips. Not likely. Beckman shook his head directly. Doflamingo also shook his head and said, yeah, it's unlikely. In fact, maybe the Navy still has expectations for him. Look, Kuzan and Porisalino are sitting in the New World, worried about the counterattack of the pirate forces in our New World at any time. The next focus of the Navy's work should be how to gain a firm foothold in the New World and bring the New World into the New World. Crocodile has the Portal Sea area in his hands. On the one hand, the Navy may not be able to deal with him. On the other hand, Sengoku may also have the hope that Crocodile will enter the New World in case there is a conflict with us. Beckman spoke. Doflamingo smiled and said evilly, from a conspiracy theory point of view, if Crocodile really breaks away from the King's Shishibukai, this will undoubtedly be a betrayal of the world government and the Navy, and will damage the credibility of the King's Shishibukai system. A kind of blow. Although the guys in the Navy implemented this plan, in essence, they have no good ideas about the Shishibukai. This may become a powerful weapon they can use to overthrow the Shishibukai system in the future. No matter which way you think about it, there is a high probability that the Navy will ignore Crocodile. That's right, but no matter what, this is Crocodile's business. Beckman smiled again. Everyone also laughed. Yes, don't worry about him, this is Crocodile's business. Meanwhile, in the Holy Land Marijoa, the headquarters building of the world government, on the top floor, in the office of the 5 Old Stars. At this time, the 5 Old Stars are sitting together and discussing some things. Reached the other side, stood at the end of strength, the bearded 5 Old Stars looked at the Navy and saw the latest bounty order that had just been sent. The Navy has not released this bounty order yet. It is a bounty order related to Orgrim. On the bounty order, there is Orgrim's crazy photo is still the same as before. But the bounty is no longer the same as Newgate's 3.743 billion belly. It has been exaggerated to 54 billions of belly rise. It's only better than GOL, who climbed to the top of the Pirate King back then. D. Roger is a little over 100 million Baileys lower. This seems to mean that Orgrim is only one step away from the throne of the Pirate King. There is no big change in the name or anything like that. In the bounty order, Orgrim is still called the King of the Night. After all, the Navy can't call him the end of his power, right? That guy really became the strongest in the world, and there is no one like him this time. The bald king smacked his lips and said. Yes, in terms of personal strength. The blond man also nodded. Then, the bearded man smiled and said, forget it, tell the Navy to give a bounty according to this amount. Orgrim is worthy of this bounty. The other 5 Old Stars also had no objections. The bald king lit a cigar, bit it on his mouth, exhaled a puff of smoke and said, is it time to choose a time to invite Orgrim to Marijoa? Orgrim has already proved it. I am the strongest in the world. The 5 Old Stars can also see that in the coming era, conflicts have shifted from within the pirate camp to outside. It is the power conflict between the Navy and pirates fighting for dominance on the sea. The real battle between good and evil. Even the 5 Old Stars can't stop this. The tide of the times cannot be stopped by anyone. They can suppress the Navy for a while, but can they always suppress the Navy? Not letting the Navy take action against the pirates? How can this be? Moreover, from a macro perspective, it is in the interests of the world government for the Navy to take action against the pirates in the New World. However, before taking action, we have to drain Orgrim's residual value dry. As for whether the Navy can win after this, it is actually important to say it is important, and it is not important to say it is not important. The 5 Old Stars understood early on what Orgrim wanted. He wants darkness. And the darkness in this world can never be driven away. If the Navy wins, everyone will be happy. If the navy loses, this new world, this whole world of darkness, give him Orgrim. After all, if you don't give it, there's nothing you can do about it. But based on such long-term contact, the 5 old stars still have a certain degree of confidence. Faith in Orgrim. That's right, they believe that Orgrim is not the kind of person who has confidence in an evil pirate. After getting the darkness, he has to subvert the light madman. He, Khazgarot Orgrim, should know very well that in this world, light and shadow are always intertwined and cannot exist alone. It's time to tell him a story, the blond man said softly. Several people looked at each other, and finally all their eyes were on the bald king. The bald king was stunned for a moment, then frowned and said, "Me again. Ha 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 ha, after all, it seems that you and Orgrim have the best relationship, you do it." The blond man smiled and pushed a phone bug to the bald king's table. The bald king shook his head helplessly, and then said, "This is really, well." After complaining, he fiddled with the phone and called Orgrim. At this time in Avalon, Orgrim also ended the conversation with Morgans. Morgans was satisfied, and Orgrim was also chatting happily. Seeing that Orgrim had no interest in continuing the conversation, Morgans wisely said goodbye and left. After he left, Robin asked Orgrim, "What are we going to do next?" "Do what?" Orgrim glanced at Robin strangely and found that this beautiful girl had become more and more interested in the movements of the Warhammer pirates recently. After smiling, Orgrim said, "Absorb the dividends of the war are the first thing to do. The rest seems to be nothing to worry about, just wait and see." How can I really explain everything in just a few words about the situation on the sea? How can I possibly see it all clearly? When the fog of war clears, let's take a look at the real situation on the sea and then make arrangements. Robin nodded, and just when she was about to say something, the phone on Orgrim's desk suddenly rang. Orgrim looked down, a little surprised, and quickly said, "Ha ha ha, these 5 old guys move really fast." It's Wolaoxing's phone bug. A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 610. After answering the phone, Orgrim asked with a smile, "It is not a good sign that the highest authority of the world government has such frequent contact with a pirate like me, ha ha ha." He didn't say hello. On the other side of the phone, the 5 old stars didn't pay much attention. The bald king also said with a smile, "Maybe that's right, but who dares to say anything?" "Gee ha 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 ha," Orgrim laughed and continued, "Yeah, no one dares to say anything. First of all, congratulations to you, Orgrim, for defeating Newgate and becoming the strongest in the world," the bald king congratulated. "Thank you very much," Orgrim responded with a smile. "So, is that rumor true? Have you reached the extreme and the limit? Standing at the end of your strength?" the bald king still asked curiously. "After all, there are such rumors on the sea, and the rumors spread from the navy." But Orgrim has not made any comments of his own on this. "Listen," the 5 old stars asked curiously, and Orgrim asked, "Do you care about me so much?" "No, no, no, we don't care about you, but we care about ourselves. After all, we will still have cooperation after this, right?" the bald king said with a smile. "Makes sense," Orgrim smiled, and then said, "Yes, as the rumors say, I seem to have touched the limit and mastered the ultimate. If this is the end of strength, if this is the other side, then I have indeed reached the other side and stand at the end of strength." As soon as Orgrim finished speaking, everyone on the 5 old stars fell silent. The stronger Orgrim is, the more beneficial it will be for them to conspire against Lord Im. After all, no one knows what the situation is like with Lord Im. But the stronger Orgrim's strength becomes, the more they say there is no pressure in the hearts of the 5 old stars. It is false. After all, Orgrim couldn't really maintain a tacit understanding with them forever. But soon, the bald king regained his composure and said, Congratulations. Ha 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 ha, same joy. Orgrim smiled again. In that case, if you're not busy, would you like to come to Marie-Joyeuse as a guest? The bald king got involved in the topic and said. Orgrim raised his eyebrows and grinned. It's not the time yet. I'm really busy. I can't go there until I have arranged the things at hand. Not too late. Well, of course it should be so. After all, this matter cannot be solved in a short while. The bald king didn't care. Afterwards, the two chatted for a while, both smiling happily. I don't know what they are laughing at. Ah, by the way, I forgot to tell you. Although it hasn't been announced yet, the Navy has set a new bounty for you, the Warhammer pirates. You, Khazgarot Orgrim, have a bounty of 54 billions of dollars will be spread across the sea soon. After thinking for a while, the bald king told Orgrim the news. After all, this is not news worth hiding. Telling Orgrim in advance can also sell well. Orgrim was stunned for a moment, then said with a smile, this is really 54 billion? It seems that I am only one step away from becoming the pirate king. The bald king felt a little complicated when he heard this. Yes, Orgrim was just one step away. As a 5-old star, he should have been angry, but instead, it's hard to describe in one word. In any case, you are not a lunatic. If you become the so-called pirate king, it will not be too bad for our world government, bald king said. Gee ha 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 ha, it sounds like you are not in a very happy mood. Orgrim laughed and asked. The bald king didn't hide anything and said directly, of course it's not very pleasant. It should be said that it is very complicated. Who calls you a bastard? Well, the world is so complicated sometimes. Orgrim didn't mind what the bald king said and said with a smile. But don't be too happy too early. The Navy is not that easy to deal with. If you lose, Orgrim, don't do anything irrational. We are all people with status, so be calm. The bald king thought for a while and then said. Are you worried that I will destroy the world, or are you worried that I will become so angry that I will go all in on the Revolutionary Army? Orgrim raised his eyebrows and asked softly. All, the bald king said without hesitation. Orgrim couldn't help but smile and said, don't worry, I, Orgrim, can't afford to lose, although I think I will definitely win. Destroy the world? There is no such meaning. Go all in on the Revolutionary Army? Why let Durag take advantage? Orgrim's sense of the 5 old stars is much better than that of Durag. What's more, it's not like he can't afford to lose. That guy in Newgate is willing to admit defeat, so why can't he, Orgrim? Besides, he never thought that he would lose. Just your words will do, the bald king smiled. In fact, at this point, both the 5 old stars and Orgrim already understood what the other party meant. First of all, whether the Warhammer pirates represented by Orgrim won, or the world government represented by the 5 old stars has won. They have no intention of killing each other. Orgrim has won, and it is impossible to destroy the world government. Even if the 5 old stars have won, they have no intention of killing Orgrim. Otherwise, why bother saying that you can't afford to lose? The fight after this is also not a personal feud, but a battle of positions. This will be a gamble, the winner takes all, and the loser eating dust. But no one wants it, and I can't afford to lose. Well, that's it anyway. I'll contact you after I've settled my affairs. By the way, please ask Jun from G-5 to pick me up then. Ha 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 ha, I like it very much. Where is she? Orgrim laughed and said. Oh? You are a pirate, but do you like the Navy? The bald king asked with a smile. Gee ha 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 ha, after all, Jun people are good looking and have a good figure. As a man, I like it. Is it reasonable? Orgrim said generously. I don't think so, the bald king made a joke, and then said these are all trivial matters. I will arrange it for you when the time comes. After that, the two of them hung up the phone without talking anymore. In Wulaoxing's office, the blond man couldn't help but smile and said, "This guy is the strongest in the world, and he still holds a grudge like this, like Jun? I think he likes to see the way Jun hates him to the core but can't do anything about him." Orgrim said he liked Jun, but Goro Hoshi didn't believe a word of it. With Orgrim's situation, it was impossible for him to really do anything because of a woman. "I guess, 9 times out of 10, you just want to torture Jun, right? Just like Jun, as long as there is a chance, he will never let go of torturing Orgrim." These two people seem to be petty. At the same time, in the first half of the Grand Line, Alabasta. This country with a long history has undergone major changes recently. The Nefertali royal family, which had ruled Alabasta for 800 years or more, was overthrown. The one who ascends the throne is a pirate. Sand crocodile. Subsequently, the country's civil strife lasted for many years and was quickly put down by Crocodile. The country began to regain its calm. But this calm seems to be only superficial calm. The Rainlands, Crocodile's base camp in Alabasta. At this time, the new king of Alabasta did not appear in the royal capital, Albina. Instead, it was deep underground in the city of Uti. Here, there is a secret base that he has built for many years. "What on earth is this?" Pero asked curiously. In front of him was an extremely huge device, but he couldn't tell what it was. Crocodile was standing in front of this device at this time. He was holding a cigar in his mouth, wearing a brown and black coat, and he was full of majesty. Listening to Prospero's inquiry, Crocodile smiled evilly and said, "You can understand it as the rudder of a ship." "Rudder?" Prospero frowned slightly, still very confused. "Alabasta, this Sentinel Island is my ship," Crocodile said softly. Prospero was stunned, and then he understood something and exclaimed, "You want to move Sentin Island? Of course, is this any surprise? I will eventually return to the New World. There are so many plans in Alabasta. If I can't take Alabasta with me, what's the point?" Crocodile said matter-of-factly. "This, Shenting Island is a very large island, can you really do it?" Prospero asked with some disbelief. Crocodile smiled and said, "Not necessarily, but I have to try it anyway. I still have confidence in my device. It will use my ability is constantly radiating to the entire island. Where there is desert, there is my power, and Shenting Island happens to be an island of yellow sand. Theoretically, it should be possible. Theoretically speaking, when the natural devil fruit is fully exerted, it is indeed enough to cover the entire island with its power. It is even larger and wider. For example, Kyuzan can freeze the sea area even more exaggerated than the island. What if it fails?" Prospero couldn't help but ask. "Fail?" Crocodile whispered softly, and then said in a very calm tone, "The only possibility of failure is that my power is out of control in the device. By then, the entire Shenting Island will be completely eroded by the shasha fruit. Once the foundation of the island will also be turned into sand, and the island will be completely destroyed." "Complete destruction? Alabasta?" Prospero was surprised. "Nature will also be destroyed," Crocodile said very coldly. After a slight pause, he said calmly and unhurriedly, "But so what? I captured Alabasta just to use the power of this country for me. If it cannot do this, it will be destroyed. Just destroy it, because it has no value to me." Crocodile's tone was calm, but his words made Prospero shudder. "Alabasta has a population of tens of millions. Crocodile, this madman, doesn't regard these people's lives as human lives at all. You guys are really cold-blooded." Prospero said this after all. Crocodile laughed, turned to look at Prospero and said, "If I am not ruthless, what should I do to gain a foothold in the New World? This world is so unreasonable. The strong decide everything, and the weak decide everything, Even if you can't control your own death, it's obvious that Alabasta is the weak one. I am now the king of Alabasta, and everything here should obey my orders. You're right, Pero said softly. Crocodile then turned his head and put his hand on the ball of the device. The next second, the power of the yellow sand on his body suddenly burst out. The strong momentum forced Pero to take a few steps back. I will definitely win, a fierce look of determination flashed in Crocodile's eyes, and he whispered softly.